Question, please go ahead.
Hi, Allie. First of all, congrats on your goal yesterday, and also congrats to fellow Canadian Diana on her game-winning goal.
Yes, Diana also scored yesterday.
So I had a question, some hopefully related to marketing. So
hopefully I can answer that.
So recently Nike released their new jerseys, and amongst other criticisms and critiques from fans, one of them was that the women's cut jersey had an incredibly deep V-neck, shorter sleeves, and absolutely no place for the FIFA Championship patch. And it was only very recently that there was a men's cut women's jersey, which I see someone wearing in the audience.
If you'd like to turn your attention to my left, stand up, sir.
Men's cut women's
stand
jersey.
up.
With
stand
the
up,
3 stars. It's not the men's jersey without the 3 stars.
Yes.
It's with the 3 stars.
Turn around. Give us a full. There we go.
Yes.
Does that wick away moisture? It looks like it wicks away moisture.
Mr. Krieger, thanks for coming tonight. Mr. Krieger, appreciate it.
And you also have cases like where the only snapback that has the 3 stars is also covered in sparkles because every single woman wants sparkles. I mean, I know there are some who do, but
I love a good sparkle.
But like for me, I'm not a
to each their own. Remember?
like for me, I'm not a big sparkle person.
Yeah.
So how much voice does the team have in these type of merchandising decisions?
Now it's like equal play, equal fashion. No, I honestly, that's on our sponsor, Nike. And, I don't think we have much of the say in that. We can obviously voice our opinion and go to our Nike representative and speak with her about that. But I don't know necessarily if we have much of a say in that. Unfortunately, it is that way. And we thought that we were shocked by it as well. So I'm hoping that, it's not okay. And, as a fan or supporter of our team, you should have the same exact jersey as we have. And I think that's only appropriate. So we will voice that opinion, and I will take that to our Nike rep 100%. But we don't have much of a say over the apparel and everything, unfortunately. But I will do my best to approach our Nike representative with that.
Thank you.
At least there's no green this time.
It made us look faster, though. So. No.
Thanks for the question.
Thank you.
So my question was sort of related to the sports injuries that you guys were talking about, but more in reference to basketball, just because of a few things that happened recently in the playoffs. So there were 3 incidents that I don't think resulted in a suspension. There was Isaiah Thomas basically punched Dennis Schroeder in the face. And sort of played it off like it was an accident. Andre Drummond elbowed LeBron James pretty hard in the head, and Andrew Bogut grabbed Dwight Howard's arm and could have broken it in the way that he was sort of entangled. And so the NBA has usually been pretty progressive about not handling injuries and making sure it doesn't stand. But I mean, when incidents like this happen, what should the standard be towards it?
Well, a lot of the leagues like the NHL waits to see if the injured player is out. And in none of those instances, I mean, it could have happened, but in none of those instances were the injured player out. So then if you hand down a suspension to the offender, then you create, I guess, an imbalance in terms of what they want, which are these 7-game series that go on forever. I would say that 2 of the 3 incidents you cited included a foreigner.
The thing that I find interesting is that and I would be curious to hear if it's similar in soccer, but there's this concept of the playoff foul, and that for some reason the players think the way to manifest toughness, because it's a really big game, is I have to hit the guy harder, or I can't allow him to get a layup. It just seems like a very simplistic view of what it means that this is an important game. So I'm going to come close to injuring this guy just because that's how I want to represent that I'm really playing hard and trying hard.
Is there also an implicit understanding that the referees are less likely to call really egregious
let everything
stuff,
go?
To let everything go. We saw that in the NHL last night on a pivotal play in the Islanders-Panthers game.
Right. The refs swallow their whistles, which seems to be a really dumb strategy if you don't want to blow a whistle.
I mean, also, with what you're talking about with the wait and see, like if they came out of the game. So last year in the playoffs with the Cavaliers, Kevin Love had his shoulder broken, I believe, by Kelly Olynyk, and basically the same thing happened. He was going for the rebound, got tangled up. The guy sort of like had his arm and just twisted in the wrong way, and it broke, and he was out for the rest of the playoffs. So, I mean, does the fact that Dwight Howard like didn't get injured but could have, I mean, should it? Do you let it stand?
But Olynyk was suspended the next game.
Olynyk
was out for the rest of the series.
But I'm saying, should Bogut be suspended? Because that very easily could have happened. It was practically the same motion, and just by chance it didn't. So I mean, just because he didn't happen to be injured that one time, like, should it, just say like, well, he was fine, so.
Well, no, I mean, I think the actual effect, I think that if you look at the Olynyk injury, it was a freak injury. It wasn't as if he wasn't being malicious. The guys got tangled up. And if a player who was fouled can play the next game, you should take it into account unless the action itself is, some sort of flagrant, purposeful hockey cross check, punch thrown. That's a different situation. I think guys getting tangled up, sometimes an arm breaks, sometimes it doesn't. You have to, do the thing where you try your best to figure out the intent of the fouler.
Let me pivot that because I think Josh had a good question for Allie, which is that the notion that when you're playing in a giant game like this, and you're feeling more adrenaline, is there more of a tendency to sort of forget and be a little more reckless or be a little more aggressive because you think you need to be?
Yes and no. I think at the highest level, you do have some of those players who can be reckless. I mean, we had in our game yesterday, Shalina got kicked in the head after a play. We had cleared the ball, or she had cleared the ball and had, fallen on the ground, and the girl jumping over her had kicked her in the head and, tried to play it off. And it's just, you have these types of reckless players that are gonna do that, unfortunately. But, at the highest level, you are competitive and you do want to win. So I think some of those like jabs, could happen, but our referees necessarily don't see it. And like yesterday, it wasn't called. So sometimes they get, it doesn't get called and they get away with it.
That was a huge game, too. Second game of the year. I mean, there's enormous stakes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Every game's important.
Thank you for the question.
All right, thank you.
Well, in wrestling, there are sparklers. So that's kind of basically my question. So random thing that popped up during the whole U.S. soccer lawsuit and everything, that there was a clause that said you had to get permission from U.S. soccer if you wanted to be in professional wrestling. As an appearance, I believe I saw.
Huh.
So let's say everything gets fixed. Equal pay, equal play, all the good stuff. And you want to go on WWE Raw.
I would never want to do that. To each their own. I don't know. My teammates would want to do that. But.
Well, okay. So in that case, who would make a great tag team pair, and what would their wrestler name be?
Yeah. Great question. I actually really like this. I think I would say Julie Johnston would be one because she's just an incredible defender and barely anything gets by her. Who else? Let's see. Kelly O'Hara could be a good one.
Scrappy?
Yeah, very, very scrappy. We saw that yesterday. And
who on Canada would you like to see them pummel?
I don't know. Maybe one of my teammates can answer that, but I got to be careful. No, I think.
Don't we want to see Christine Sinclair versus Abby Wambach? Isn't
that
the?
Yeah. If Abby weren't retired, I would pick her. And
I think a lot of the Mexicans could go as luchadors, the masked women of wrestling. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Excellent question. All right. Who's this?
That's a tough question to top there.
Yeah.
So this is going a little bit more toward the conversation around Curt Schilling. And I feel like in the United States particularly, we have a need to kind of look back with rosy-colored glasses on our sports history. So I'm thinking of 42, Remember the Titans, the race, you can name it. So in 30 years, do you think folks like Curt Schilling will be profiled on the right side of history, or do you think that those folks will be more kind of swept aside and there will be kind of more stories along that vein? And that the story will be told that sports were on the right side of kind of civil rights. And how do you see that playing out?
Well, I can't, there's no way the Kurt Schilling will be portrayed as on the right side of history. Or,
thank you.
Yeah. Or alternatively,
let's hope.
Or alternatively, there will be, and then we'll be living in the America with the K, there'll be.
The eighth term of, the Trump presidency.
The Trumpian dystopia will be visited upon us. Reactionary politics don't age well. Reactionary populist politics is very few instances where 50 years after the most, let's close down the borders, let's be scared, let's exclude groups ever turns out to be right. But that said, I don't see how, once we get over this paroxysm of anti-gay hysteria, I don't see how in 50 years so many people won't say what took all the major league sports so long to have a acknowledged gay player in their ranks. I mean, and I don't know if it's a shame. Yeah, I do. It's a shame, but it's explainable, but I think in 50 years it will be, of the ilk of things that are explainable yet still not right. And it does seem to me that we're really not just lagging behind, but if you asked me 10 years ago, I'd be shocked that in 2016, we didn't have at least a few openly gay players who are prominent in the male North American sports leagues.
And yet Ken Burns is just on a documentary, documentary number 700 about Jackie Robinson and the integration of baseball. So 50 years later, I think we will look back on this era and note the important moments in other forms of social progress in sports. And I think you're right, Mike. We will wonder, what the hell was the big deal? What took so long? But I don't think Kurt Schilling is going to be part of, well, he might be actually in the Ken Burns of 2066. Those, grainy images of Facebook pages.
Yeah.
But I don't think that, they're certainly not going to be prominent in any sort of favorable way. He will be the outlier who represented how bigoted and backward we were for a time.
Cool.
Yeah. Hey, just a footnote about the making baseball exciting. I think speed was one thing that made baseball exciting.
You mean amphetamines? Or?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but also Ricky Henderson comes to mind as a position player that made the game exciting. With the loss of speed in baseball, it's less so. But my question is actually about soccer, and I've read a few articles that talk about how the European soccer academies are the way to produce the best soccer players in the world. And that gets compared to the U.S. sports system of collegiate sports. And so, it seems to be pretty well decided that the European soccer academies produce the best soccer players. But I'm just wondering if you guys, I don't know much about the academies themselves, and I'm wondering if you guys have any opinions about what's best for the athletes. We know about the ethical transgressions of the NCAA and how rough it is for collegiate athletes, especially in the big sports. But is there a comparison to be made, an easy comparison to be made?
I do think there's a big difference, and you're right that I think over in Europe they do it right with the way that they bring up their players and grow them within the game at such an early age, and they stay within the club and they produce these players that not only eventually play for that club team, for example, like a Celtic FC or a Chelsea or a Dortmund, and they grow within that club, from a very young age until they get to the first team, or they sell them out to another team. And I really think that our system is just a bit different. It's not better or worse, but you do have, a bunch of different club teams around the world. They're not necessarily, only within a professional club within the MLS or the NWSL. And I think that is what maybe can change to produce better players at a young age and kind of mold them into really, really good players at a younger age. And I think that is the biggest difference, that they don't go to college. They do both. They stay within the professional program there, and they do the schooling at the facilities as well. And that's probably one of the biggest differences when we go to college, it's not a setback, but you don't play year round. So you're only playing 3 months out of the year, and that's not long enough.
Do you think, Allie, that it's possible to sort of change the culture of soccer in the United States that would be more accepting of that kind of a system? Or do you even think that kind of a system would make sense here?
I don't know if it would make sense here. We're so set in the way of college, athletics. And I think that's also great. I mean, I loved going to school and playing soccer in that atmosphere. And it was some of the best years of my life. And so I wouldn't want to take that away from anyone, and over in Europe, some of the players come here, some of the women's players come here. Maybe it'll be different for the men and women. But hopefully one day that it's, that football or soccer will be, the number one sport in the US. And I think until that happens, I don't think much will change with the process of, how we, train our young athletes in our different sports that we have. Unfortunately, we're not the number one sport in the US yet.
All right, let's take 2 more.
Oh, that last guy.
3 more. There's 3
All right, 3 more. I'm being told we need to wrap it up. So do I need to walk back on how many more can we take? All right, fast.
That's up
Lightning
to
round.
you. Go.
All right.
Go.
Just first, I wanted to say, Allie, I actually covered you while you were in high school at Forest Park, so I'm sure
Thank you.
Thank you. But I have a super legal nerd question, which is, I know you guys have been fighting both about your MOU and the equal pay complaint, and was sort of wondering the connection between them and the strategy about how you were doing that.
The MOU is the what?
Memorandum of Understanding. Sorry, I'm now a labor lawyer. So.
All right.
What was the last part of your question? I'm sorry.
Sort of the connection between your fight with them over with U.S. Soccer over the MOU and
the CBA
and the CBA, as well as
the labor contract versus the
equal pay complaint.
Lawsuit.
Yeah.
I can't get too much in detail because that is still going on, unfortunately. And obviously I'm in the marketing group. I'm not in the CBA group. So, no, but, I think that, right now it's hard to comment on this because it's still in the works and we're still fighting because we don't necessarily think that our CBA is even signed. And, that's the first problem and the first issue. And that needs to be solved before we then can move on to the next steps. But, we will fight until, even if they do prove that it was signed, we will continue to fight for equal pay. And no matter what the circumstances are with that, but, it's obviously in the works. I have to, just, not, I don't think, get too in depth with all of that, but, it's in the works and we still, like one of our captains said, Becky Sauerbrunn had recently said, it's striking, for the Olympics is still an option for us if nothing gets solved. And we're that serious, about this issue. And, we all stand united together. So hopefully that will be figured out. But yeah, I can't get too in depth with any of that.
Just for the record, is Kurt Schilling going to be vindicated by history as an easier question to answer than the MOU? All right, 2 more.
Labor nerd.
Thank you.
Hi, so I have a really silly question. So, those FIFA matches, the pregame ritual where they play the FIFA anthem, this weird anthem, and they have the flags march out. You're always holding these kids' hands. Yeah. So, in like a big World Cup match, right, and you have all this stuff going on, you have to go through this weird ritual. How does it feel to be like, do you just want to block out and ignore all this crap that you have to do?
Yeah,
and then what do you do with these kids? And where do they get these kids?
That's a lot. Do you want to come? Are you like mad that you're not there?
I think I'm aged out.
You can come to our spirit game and we can hold hands, walk out. It's all a part of the process of playing the game. I think it's.
But if you get a creepy kid, can that throw you?
I mean, you have to have the awkward conversation. Hi, what's your name? Are your parents here?
Yeah. Like clammy hands.
Is this your first time out here? Like, how do you like it?
Come here often.
And they just stare. Yeah, they just stare. No, it's so great. I mean, especially for the young kids, it's just a part of it. That's a part of our job. It goes hand in hand.
Literally.
Yeah.
No pun intended. And you don't really think twice about it. We're so used to it now, I guess, that it doesn't really faze me. I mean, we just kind of are automatically focused, and I don't think anything is going to get in the way of that.
You ever feel guilty because you're not paying enough attention to the
What
children?
am I supposed to push the kid aside?
All about
and
the
just walk?
children, right? Sure it is, yeah.
No, but great question, but I don't think it messes up with anybody's routine or anything. I think it's, you have to do it. It's a part of the ritual and the entertainment for that game. And we do like playing our national anthem, so I don't think we should throw that out.
Thank you. Last question? All right.
Yeah, this might be selfish because it's more just a personal bugbear rather than actually anything interesting. But it's about just DC as a sports town and what will it take for people to care so much? Because it feels like maybe part of, I don't know, just like there's this funny reputation that, I don't know, like, when was the last time the city won a championship, but nobody's actually sad about it. We have a horribly uncharismatic football team, blah, blah, blah. And, yeah, it's just not like a thing so much that it sort of ends up being this sideshow. And if that's like a marketing thing, and I'm not saying that I'm like
2 words, Washington Spirit.
Right.
Or Bryce Harper. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. And that's like a big question.
The Capitals are the odds-on favorite to win the Stanley Cup. That'll turn this town on its ear. That could be fun. They'll go crazy if the Caps win.
They will, yeah. It's not going to happen, but.
No.
Right. And that's like the fatalism is involved. And I don't know. Yeah.
No, I mean, I think one of the great things about DC is that you have people here from all over the world. And I'm from New Orleans, and you have a kind of unanimity around the Saints there that you don't have around any team here, just because people come from other places and they root for their teams. And so I think that's different. And I kind of miss home in that way where you see like everyone. I mean, I guess you get that a little bit with the Dan Snyder team, but there hasn't been that much to root for. But it's just still kind of a weird sports town in that way. I mean, do you?
I do that. I do. And it's still not, I don't know. I mean, compared to New York.
Yeah.
But right. I've been here for almost a decade. It's just
really
like
not
thing.
fair to compare major metropolitan cities.
All right.
Thank you, good night.
I think maybe we will end it there. Thank you again, Allie. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.